Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now, your host, Tim Johnson.
The Louisiana Small Business Development Center is the state's largest and most accessible source of assistance for entrepreneurs and the only statewide nationally accredited program that provides business consulting to entrepreneurs at no cost. Through its network of business centers, the LSBDC provides high-quality one-on-one consulting, training, and information resources to help small businesses in our state start, grow, and succeed. Brian Greenwood, Associate State Director of the Louisiana Small Business Development Center, joins us on this edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
The Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this.
Founded in 1984, BIC Alliance and its subsidiaries connect business and industry buyers and suppliers with one another for the betterment of all. BIC helps companies grow in three ways: aggressive sales and marketing campaigns in BIC Magazine, finding the right people through BIC Recruiting, and by merger and acquisition and related services through IVS Investment Banking. Contact BIC Alliance today.
The funny thing about Louisiana is that people don't often ask you why you moved home. They just accept it as the most natural thing in the world. Because of course I would want to move back home and be near my tribe, be in this beautiful landscape. It just inspires me. Whether it's a golden marshland, an expanse of sugarcane fields, a sunset through a cypress swamp, the outdoors here really are like nowhere else. You can start your day off paddling at Lake Martin, finish it off with music at the Blue Moon. I came home for my dream job, but also because I believe in Louisiana and where it's going. We're building a world-class Central Park in Louisiana, planned by the members of this community. And I just bought my dream home, a sustainable house designed and built by the architecture students here at the university. My electricity bill was $30 last month. The life I thought I would have in Austin is actually happening right here in Louisiana. I'm E.B. Brooks. I have the job I want in the place I love.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the soccer star to the soccer mom. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Consumers and property owners with a construction project can have a very successful result or a regretful experience that could have been avoided. Before beginning any construction project in Louisiana, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers may claim to be licensed or bonded, but you should ask for a copy of the license. For additional information, contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors or go to the website lslbc.louisiana.gov. Licensed and qualified contractors. It's the law.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. I'm very pleased to welcome Brian Greenwood. He is the Associate State Director of the Louisiana Small Business Development Center. That's a mouthful. Welcome.
It is a mouthful. Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here. We always try to start by getting to know business leaders in our state a little bit. So tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, your education, and the career path that led you to the position you're in today.
Sure. Brian Greenwood. I'm from a Cajun town called Lafayette, Louisiana.
Everybody knows where that is, right?
I was born there,
right.
Grew up there, good food, good culture there. I have a brother that lives there, and 2 kids here with a wife, family, and heavily involved in their lives and loving it and coaching piece of that. From a career standpoint, I have 2 degrees from LSU, undergraduate and a master's from LSU in finance. Career path is basically, I thought I wanted to be a banker because I liked money growing up. I was cutting lawns and trying to find ways to make money. So banking sounded kind of cool. So I tried that. And at the time in the 80s, things were a bit struggling with the real estate, oil and gas, not many banking jobs. So I took the next best thing, unfortunately, was to go work for FDIC, closing banks. In that world, I eventually got into the banking world and became a commercial lender. From there, I worked at LSU in the Louisiana Business Technology Center, where I worked with small businesses that were there in the incubator as well as those were not as our clients, and helping them figure out, okay, so I want to grow, point A to point Z. How do I get there? What do I need to do in terms of preparation for my books so that I can go get a bank loan? In the early stages, it was working with companies getting loans. But over time, as more technology started coming through our pipeline, we had to work in the equity world, which is what we did towards the end of it at LSU, to help figure out how do I raise a Series A round, B round in venture capital, or even startup round through an angel capital round. From there, I went back into banking for a while, enjoyed it, loved the banking world. It's an interesting world, as you can imagine, with the fund regulations, but overall it's a fun industry. And then an opportunity to get back into what I did, which I'm very passionate about, working with entrepreneurs and small business owners in finding ways to help them figure out how they get to the next phase of business life. And I'm now the Associate State Director for the Louisiana Small Business Development Center program.
And we're going to jump into that, Brian. You know, it plays a critical role helping small businesses and entrepreneurs in our state, but it's part of a national network, right? The National
Correct.
Small Business Development Center. So let's start at that level. Tell us just briefly about the National Small Business Development Center, and then let's dive into the mission of the Louisiana Small Business Development Center.
Sure. Well, Congress established as a pilot project in the U.S. Small Business Administration in Washington, the Small Business Development Center Network in the mid to late 70s. And over time, it's grown into where now it's a full-fledged program under SBA. Role is management assistance, tech assist to existing businesses as well as startup businesses. The national group works with Congress. Whenever there's a new administration, usually they have something related to small business projects or initiatives that funnel from the president to Congress to the SBA, and then our association, which is now called the American Small Business Development Center Network. Their role is to interact with the folks there to get what policy issues need to be dealt with small business, and then come to us for very specific information related to, say, small business in Baton Rouge or New Orleans or North Louisiana, what's happening in those communities. They also help in building quality. We go through every 4 year an accreditation process that we must go through in order to maintain our federal funding with the SBA that helps us get better using the Baldrige Quality Initiative on that. So those are things that we typically work with our national association with.
Well, let's talk about the mission of the Louisiana Small Business Development Center. Give us a little bit about it, the background, what it is intended to do, and then the structure of the operation.
Sure. Well, in the early 80s was the launch of the SBDC program in Louisiana. It's based at University of Louisiana Monroe, and it's the prime contractor for that program in Louisiana, and it subcontracts to other centers. When I first started in being familiar with the SBDC program, there are 14 centers around the state. Through various issues relating to budgets, over the years it's gone from 14 down to 7. They're all located at a university, and it's a partnership between the federal government through the SBA, state through Louisiana Economic Development, and the host university that sponsors that program. Again, technical assistance relating to helping small businesses figure out what issues they have and how to work through those, as well as finding folks that might need some form of training. We can do that, as well as a host of things in marketing, business, management.
Really
finance.
a host of services in terms of coaching, direction, helping small businesses get started and grow. Now, you mentioned being part of the national organization. You mentioned being part of, being headquartered at the University of Louisiana Monroe and being part of the university system in some degree. I also know you're associated with Louisiana Economic Development. So let's talk about those associations, and you mentioned it, but give us a little bit clearer picture on how you're funded.
Sure. We're funded in four primary parts. The first part is it's a federal program. Congress has appropriated over $100 million to go through 65 SBDC regionals throughout the course of the U.S., Puerto Rico. LED provides some money to us as a match. SBA requires a match in which there's 50% is cash, 1-to-1, and the other can be in kind. And then the host university provides cash. Now, we have lots of entrepreneurial spirit in our network, and so a number of our directors and their centers actually raise money in various ways that they need to in order to produce their program, through another program they sponsor, through sponsorships, training, special projects, things of that nature.
It's really an interesting organizational structure, and I want to jump into a little bit more about that as we come back from break. We're visiting with Brian Greenwood. He is the Associate State Director of the Louisiana Small Business Development Center, and you're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Cox Sports.
The Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this.
BIC Media Solutions is a marketing and communication, media advisory, and event planning company within BIC Alliance. BIC Media Solutions offers custom book publishing, event planning, and keynote speaking to its clients in the business and industrial sector, and marketing partnerships to others in publishing. BIC Alliance is your business and industry connection. Contact BIC Alliance today.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the Grand Slam hitter to grandparents. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Consumers and property owners with a construction project can have a very successful result or a regretful experience that could have been avoided. Before beginning any construction project in Louisiana, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers may claim to be licensed or bonded, but you should ask for a copy of the license. For additional information, contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors or go to the website lslbc.louisiana.gov. Licensed and qualified contractors. It's the law.
At Peak Performance Physical Therapy, we treat the athlete in everyone, from the three-point shooter to the three-piece suit. If your doctor prescribes physical therapy, ask for Peak Performance by name, getting you back in the game of life.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. We're visiting with Brian Greenwood. He's the Associate State Director of the Louisiana Small Business Development Center. And Brian gave us a little bit about your background, talked about the national organization and that the Louisiana Small Business Development Center is part of that national organization. You mentioned that you're headquartered in Louisiana at the University of Louisiana Monroe, but that there are 6 other centers around the state, one being at LSU. Where are the other 5 located?
Sure. The other 5 are located strategically in the state. We have a Northwest region that is sponsored by, hosted by the Northwestern State University, covering Natchitoches, Alexandria, and Shreveport. We have one in Lake Charles. McNeese is the host university there. One in Lafayette, UL Lafayette is hosting that one. One in Hammond, Southeast Louisiana. Here in Baton Rouge, we have Southern University Baton Rouge. And in New Orleans, it's a regional concept in which Loyola University is the host prime there, and Xavier University is part of that, along with Delgado Community College.
So I'm an entrepreneur in our state. I've either own a small business, or I'm thinking about starting a small business, and somehow I find your website. Right. I want to take advantage of the resources. I reach out to you. What happens from there?
Sure.
How do we make the connection? What does the contractual arrangement look like between the two organizations, and how specifically can you help?
Well, a couple things. Number one is find us on the web, lsbdc.org, or one of our local centers. Assuming that you find us first, the first triage, so to speak, is are you currently in business or are you a startup entrepreneur? Each of those has a different pathway that you go through our process in launching. Assuming that you're an existing business, then typically we will bring you in to work with you one-on-one in a consultative manner that figures out A, what is it that you are having challenges with, and then B, figure out can that local center provide those services, or do they need help from another center that has an expertise. Typically, most centers can handle probably 95% of the projects that come into the door. If you're a startup entrepreneur, depending on your experience level, it will be probably a training where it's a group environment where we bring 5 to 20 entrepreneurs together that want to launch a business and give them a big overview of what it takes to become an entrepreneur in Louisiana. What are the key elements of where you go to register, things of that nature on it. In terms of contractual, as you mentioned, organization, it's a federally funded program. There is no cost to the entrepreneur because the entrepreneur has paid through their taxes, both federal and state, to cover our costs. So we don't charge for our one-on-one consultation services. There may be a fee for a training event to help cover the cost of the room and whatever speaker engagements that we have there. And so basically what we're asking you to do is this. You bring us your issues that we have. We will find the best way to help you, give you options of which direction we will bring you that you might want to go in. Yet we're not going to actually do the work. It's helping. It's an educational model where we can help the entrepreneur work through those issues so that in the event that the issue may come again, they'll have the tools and resources, skill, and experience in helping solve that, so that they can come back to us for another issue, whether it's a marketing issue or
It really is coaching that you're providing and bringing in experienced individuals who know how to navigate the waters of starting up a small business or being successful in a small business, business plans, leadership, hiring people, maybe going after financing, all those sort of things. One of the things that's interesting is that you guys, like a lot of organizations, and you mentioned it in the first segment as well, are doing more with less. You've gone, as you mentioned, from 14 centers down to 7, but because you've got your own entrepreneurial spirit, you're seeing some impact. I know that the assistance that you give to small business in the state is critical. Talk to us about that impact and how you guys measure it and what you're seeing.
Sure. Well, we have deliverables. It's not fully a grant to us from the federal and state, so we have deliverables that we have to provide each year. From the SBA standpoint, along with LED, want to know what kind of impact do we have relating to working with our businesses in a startup mode or an existing mode that would generate new jobs or retain jobs. So
in fact, that is the real measure that LED looks like, right? How many jobs,
how many quality jobs, how many jobs in general that you can make. Secondly is what kind of capitalizations are you there? We do a lot of work with helping clients put packages together to go get a bank loan or go get some equity financing via venture capital or angel. In addition to that, training. In addition to that, sales growth. We work with folks in a variety of ways that figures out, okay, if I want to start today at, say, $500,000, in 2 years I want to get to 1.2 million, how do you get there? So we will go through a full process where we go through looking at the infrastructure, looking at what kind of systems and processes they have, what are they currently doing, how can they leverage that. Those are elements that we start with and then help them figure out what they're best suited for, what they're comfortable at, and get to the next level of growth and sales. So the metrics is really what we are out there doing for our funding partners of the SBAs of the world and the LEDs of the world and the host universities.
And it's critical, particularly from the federal government standpoint, and then obviously the Louisiana state government standpoint, and for your own personal satisfaction, I'm sure, that you can measure that return on investment. One of the things I want to get into the next segment is we're about to experience more growth, economic growth in the state than we may have seen in our lifetime. And I know small businesses will play a critical role in that. And I want to jump into that when we come back from the break. We're visiting with Brian Greenwood. He is the Associate State Director of the Louisiana Small Business Development Center. And you're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Fox Sports.
The Louisiana Business and Industry Show will be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Joe Martin, president of ITI Technical College. Do you want a better life?
Get your associate's degree in occupational studies in information technology from ITI. In 2 years, you'll be on your way to a better life. You will get hands-on specialized training in computers, hardware and software, networking, and more. ITI offers flexible class schedules, and financial aid is available to those who qualify.
So don't wait. Call ITI now or go online. It's that simple.
ITI for a better life.
The funny thing about Louisiana is that people don't often ask you why you moved home. They just accept it as the most natural thing in the world. Because of course I would want to move back home and be near my tribe, be in this beautiful landscape. It just inspires me. Whether it's a golden marshland, an expanse of sugarcane fields, a sunset through a cypress swamp, the outdoors here really are like nowhere else. You can start your day off paddling at Lake Martin, finish it off with music at the Blue Moon. I came home for my dream job, but also because I believe in Louisiana and where it's going. We're building a world-class Central Park in Louisiana, planned by the members of this community. And I just bought my dream home, a sustainable house designed and built by the architecture students here at the university. My electricity bill was $30 last month. The life I thought I would have in Austin is actually happening right here in Louisiana. I'm E.B. Brooks. I have the job I want in the place I love.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show with Tim Johnson.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. We're visiting with Brian Greenwood. He's the Associate State Director of the Louisiana Small Business Development Center. And we don't have a show here that we don't talk about the enormous growth that is coming to Louisiana. Louisiana Economic Development talks about $80 billion, as much as $80 billion worth of economic expansion. A lot of jobs, a lot of investment. One of the things that we know is critical is that as these major businesses in our state grow and expand and add jobs and have investment, that small businesses in Louisiana take full advantage of that in the appropriate way. So what are you guys doing from the Louisiana Small Business Development Center's perspective to help ensure that small businesses in Louisiana are positioned to assist as we see this economic growth that's coming?
One of the things that we're actually working on as a pilot project with Louisiana Economic Development is a concept called economic gardening. Economic gardening is taking business retention strategy to the small business world and help them grow to the point where they're moving into what's called a stage 2 type company, which is a company that's gone from maybe $500,000, $1 million outwards to 20+ million in revenue. A couple of the key things that a small business owner needs to be thinking about in grabbing a piece of the pie of this $80 billion construction world is this. What do I want to do? Not only what do I want to get out of it, but where do I want to take the pathway to my company? What's the end first? And then when you figure out what it is of growth size or projects or whatever the metric is, that's the starting point. And when you find out what it is you want to do, then it's a people issue. It's an infrastructure issue, it's a strategy issue, and it's a capital issue. And those 4 components are what we work with folks in figuring out, okay, if I want to go from $1 million to 10 million in 5 years, how do I get there? We look at them and we say, okay, what kind of infrastructure do you have? What people, personnel do you have available? And then build a plan, big picture plan in getting there through business planning, through strategy, things of that nature. The key element, though, is you can't wait till you need $1 million to go to a bank and ask for $1 million. It's the best time to raise money is when you don't need it, unfortunately. Building the systems of growth. How are you going to differentiate yourself from the next person? That's a big challenge at small business, because small business has very limited resources, as we all know. And how do you leverage it? How do you leverage getting the word out? You know, what is your brand? What is your marketing piece that you want people to know about your business in such a way that they're going to want to do business with you? I hate to say it, but perception is reality. And if you look small, a lot of big companies don't want to necessarily go that way because they don't know if you can, you know, satisfy their needs.
Well, and you guys position for all of those elements of growth and all of those elements of forecasting. You mentioned this, you know, this whole idea of positioning yourself to look sometimes larger than you may be. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten in business was a really experienced and successful gentleman told me one time, I'm not building an infrastructure in my business for where I am today. I'm building my infrastructure in my business for where I expect to be in 5 years. And I thought that was great advice, even for small business people. Now, you and I were talking before the show, and you mentioned some recent speeches that you've given discussing issues that small businesses face. And just like large businesses, small businesses face a myriad of obstacles, things they have to overcome. Let's talk about some of the things you've seen as you've worked with small business in terms of some of those issues that they deal with.
Sure. It all comes down to usually personnel, workforce, capital, access to capital, and then how do I grow my business and generate larger revenue pieces. From a workforce development, one must figure out, okay, as we said in our big picture, where do we want to go? How do we want to get there? Why would someone want to work for you? I mean, that's big in terms of how you attract and retain your existing employees, because when this growth hits, you're going to see what I call, using a sports analogy, the free agency of the human capital piece, and that is, you know, whoever has the best package of the week is going to get that, unfortunately. And a lot of small businesses are going to miss the boat. How do you get around that? Being creative in how you treat your employees. Have a family cultural environment where you make it easier on your folks that have young families to deal with. The other piece of growth that I want to talk about quickly is this. How are you going to differentiate yourself from everyone? All right? Brand recognition in the marketplace is critical. Small businesses do not have the $1 million+ for that 30-second Super Bowl commercial. They've got to find very creative ways to get their name in the marketplace through inexpensive means of the internet and social media.
One more time, if I'm an entrepreneur or a small business out there and I'm looking for assistance, how do I get in touch with you?
Reach out to our website, www.lsbdc.org.
Brian Greenwood, Associate Director, Louisiana Small Business Development Center. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's a wrap, guys. Join us again next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show on Cox Sports.